more on what Fed policy could look like under a Trump administration. Brian Gardner joins us now on set. He is Stifel's chief Washington policy strategist. Brian, great to have you here in person.
Thanks, Melissa.
Especially election week here. There is a lot that we don't know, and in terms of Fed policy, a lot of that will depend on what Trump does. Immediately, what's the first thing you're looking for him to do? Will it be tariffs?
Tariffs and immigration, all right? What can you do first? The administration can act first. Congress, tax cuts, tax extensions are going to take longer. So it's immigration. I don't think he can do mass deportations. And I'm not talking from a legal standpoint. I'm talking about a logistics standpoint. We don't have the infrastructure in this country to go around and massively round up people that shouldn't be here. And where do you put them and how do you get them out? So I think that's going to be a little bit more for show. I think the tariffs are going to happen relatively quickly. They've already been through this exercise once. They have a good idea of where they want to go. And so I think tariffs are one of the leading items.
I mean, middle-class workers, that is his core.
That's the core. That's the base.
And tariffs would definitely hurt this particular group of people.
They don't see it that way. That's the issue.
They don't see it that way.
I mean,
so they're willing to stomach a 33% rise in toys ahead of Christmas.
This is the issue that has gone on through the campaign, the great debate. What's the state of the economy? And every economist you'll talk to says the economy is great. And the Trump base and people that weren't part of the base that voted for him said, not so much. So there is a disconnect between the economics and the perception of what it means for voters and workers. So I think these workers are seeing, they are buying into the narrative, and I'm not saying they're right or wrong, but they are buying into the narrative. It's going back for 30 years now that NAFTA and other trade agreements have robbed U.S. jobs. And so they're fine with it.
He is also a president who watches the stock market very closely, and the reaction to tariffs would be negative. And so I'm wondering how you sort of square that with also his mandate that he has gotten in terms of the popular vote, in terms of a sweep, which could embolden him to be very, very go out there in terms of the tariffs and the range of tariffs he could enact.
I think he was emboldened by the market yesterday. I mean, the market reaction, I think, exceeded what a lot of people were expecting. And so I think he said, hey, I'm validated. The market knows what I'm going to do. They're okay with it. I can do it. And now not only did I win, not only did I win the popular vote, I may have a majority vote. Yeah. And so that is just steamrolling into the idea in his head that he has a mandate and is going ahead.
You heard Fed Powell address the question about him being fired. Yep. He said he can't do it.
Not permitted on.
Not permitted on, which I don't know if it's entirely true, but that's not the point.
I think it is true, but
I thought it doesn't. With that said, I mean, how important is this role going to be? Because President-elect Trump clearly wants rates to be lower.
The interesting thing is now, I mean, we talk about Fed independence because Trump has come in and said that he's not going to reappoint Powell, and has even talked about firing him. Powell's more independent than ever. I mean, so I think for the next year, Powell is quite emboldened. He knows he's not getting a third term, and so he's not constrained by the political realities of trying to get another nomination and trying to get through the Senate. So for the next year, it's what Powell wants the board and the FOMC to do.
Brian, I just said I'm not good at math. I think I'm okay at math. All right, so let's just talk about the undocumented workers and mass deportation. I think there's some estimates that it might cost $20,000 to deport one worker, okay, one illegal alien. Do the math. I mean, if they're going to do a million, that's $20 billion. I mean, so think about it. So you're talking about logistics, the cost associated with that, and then you think about what it does to the economy. This could be a disaster, especially coupled with a trade war with increased tariffs. Think about that. I'm just curious, help us with that.
No, for industries that rely on lower skilled workers, because these are not high skilled workers. I don't mean to be crass about it, but they're not. Yeah. So for industries that rely on lower skilled workers, it's highly disruptive. You went through the math on the budget impact, just the logistics of rounding those people up. And you just can't fly them across a border or bus them to a border. You're going to have to house them for some period of time. It's a logistical operational nightmare. It's something that the federal government really is pretty bad at. And so I suspect that behind the bluster and behind the rhetoric, that there are people close to Trump and maybe Trump himself that realize this is a longer-term issue that they have that it's not going to be resolved in the first 100 days, the first 6 months, the first year of an administration. It didn't happen overnight. It's not going to be resolved overnight.